until he died, which was sometime after World War II. I would think they gave him like an honorary position, if you will, and basically he's going to be the president for life. You know, and I understand that. And it's basically, if he were alive today still, he'd be the president of the American Jewish Congress. I have no doubt about it. So this guy is a huge player. This guy had a lot of power and prestige, and he represented reform, and that's who he was. He could have used that power to save a lot of Jews from the Nazis, because the opportunities came into his hands repeatedly, but instead he chose to let those Jews be turned over to the Nazis. And he has a very long rap sheet. Where do I begin, right? Let's start with Romania. Is it okay I just start going into it? The New York newspapers reported on February 16th, 1943, that Romania had offered up 70,000 Jews at the price of $50 a head, $50 each. If you do the math, that means if they can come up with, it's a lot of money, especially in those days, $3.5 million, and you could ransom out, you could save 70,000 Jewish lives. Keep them from getting transported to the camps. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, but Weiss had a lot of rich Reform Jews that he could have leaned on. He had the American Jewish Congress to lean on, and he even had ties to the World Jewish Congress. This guy had probably more power at his disposal and more money than any other person on the planet to help the Jews. He could have immediately called upon all the Jews and the American Jewish Congress to pool all their money and save those 70,000 Jews. He could have called on everybody to lobby Washington, D.C. to use federal money to pay the ransom. But instead, what did he do?
What did he do, right?
I'll tell you. Thanks for asking. 8 days after that announcement, on February 24th, he publicly denied that such an offer existed. He denied. He said that offer doesn't exist. That's a bogus story. Even though that the United States State Department had already affirmed privately that the Romanian government had actually made that offer. And sometime later, after all those 70,000 Jews who could have easily been saved had already been annihilated, and they were already dead, the facts were confirmed by a man named Bartley Kroon, who's an expert on affairs of the Near East, and he confirmed that that in fact that offer had been made. So how in the world Stephen Weiss was able to say with confidence that the offer was false and bogus is beyond anyone's understanding, because it was indeed a valid deal, and instead of investigating it and try to come up with the money, he sat back and said, nah, there's not such a thing, it doesn't exist. Now you're saying, okay, Rabs, that's just one isolated incident. We see a pattern. Let me go on. Same thing happened in Hungary and Slovakia. Rabbi Chaim Weissmandl, who was a frum rabbi, he was people might call Orthodox, he sent an urgent and impassioned appeal for small funds to stave off the deportation of thousands of Jews in that area. Stephen S. Weiss and other Reform leaders poo-pooed on the messages that Rabbi Weissmandl smuggled at the risk of his own life, and they allowed the execution of many, many Slovakian and Hungarian Jews. Okay, why is he doing this? Why do we see this recurrent thing with Romanian, the Slovakian, the Hungarian Jews? There are various, you could, conjecture many different reasons. We know that he has ties to the Zionists. We know that that he was very big in the getting together. Stephen S. Weiss was big in the Zionist thing. You can't say he did this because the people that he wanted to not save were not Zionists. I don't know, but we know the story of Rudolf Kastner. Do you know that story?
No.
Okay, Rudolf Kastner was a Zionist in Hungary during the war, and he made a deal with Adolf Eichmann. He was a Jewish man, and he made a deal with Adolf Eichmann, and the story goes that he made a deal with Eichmann to save 12,000 Jews and let the rest go to the camps. Let the rest go to the camps, but these 12,000 that he hand-selected, and was mostly his Zionist friends and stuff like that, would be saved. And this report came out later on, like in the 50s or something, when he was in Israel, in the state of Israel, and Kastner sued the guy for libel, for slander, for libel, right? And they went before the Israeli court, and the court, the facts of the case came out, and the court took the side of the guy who wrote the story. And the judge said that Rudolf Kastner sold his soul to the devil by making a deal
Yeah.
and by letting those Jews go to the concentration camps,
Yeah.
even though he saved 12,000, by the fact that he let everybody else go, that's as if he collaborated.
Yeah.
That's the words that were used. He collaborated. I don't know. I don't know how to conjecture this, but all we know is the facts are that Stephen S. Weiss allowed these people to go to the camps. According to the words of the Israeli court, I don't see the difference. He's a collaborator. He allowed the Germans to kill these Jews when it was in his power to stop it.
And of course, you guys should Google this to read different takes on Stephen S. Weiss. This wasn't the entirety of his life's work. It's what seems like a very shameful episode. I've heard something about this. I'm not particularly up on it, but check out his Wikipedia profile. Read up on the guy. Research this, and come to your own conclusions.
Right. The last one I want to say is this last one. It's possible it's because of a Zionist versus anti-Zionist thing. It's just possible it's a Reform versus Orthodox thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he allegedly advised, Stephen S. Weiss allegedly advised President Franklin Delano Roosevelt not to meet with 400 Orthodox rabbis that marched on Washington in 1943. Why would he do that? Here they were, these frum rabbis were marching and saying, hey, let's bring awareness to the fact that these Jews are in the camp. Let's, these Jews, let's bomb the railroad tracks and all these, to keep the Jews from being sent to Auschwitz. And he said, no. He wanted to squelch all that. Like, why?
Well, I think part of it is that you can still see this today. Orthodox Jews have less interest in getting along with the Goyim. We don't want to go out there and unnecessarily alienate non-Jews, but Reform and Conservative Jews lead their lives much more closely enmeshed with non-Jews. And so when an Orthodox Jew when they dress in a distinctive way and carry on very distinctive practices and lead their lives separate from the rest of society, that generally looks weird to non-Orthodox Jews. They go, oh, why are these people holding themselves apart? And so making a ruckus, making a Jewish ruckus, these Orthodox rabbis standing up and making this march on Washington, I can understand why assimilated Jews, being confronted by these people who are staying very distinctly Jewish, would feel disturbed or threatened. And you see it today. Generally speaking, Orthodox Jews get far more respectful treatment for their practice of their religion from non-Jews than they do from non-Orthodox Jews.
Right. But I would counter that by saying what they're really doing is their own form of anti-Semitism.
Perhaps, yeah.
When a Jew who's not practicing is so threatened by the fact of the appearance, like you mentioned, just appearance of a Jew doing a Jewish thing, what they're really acting out upon and what is their own insecurity, and they're not comfortable with Jews practicing Judaism, and they're acting against that, and that's a form of anti-Semitism. They're Jewish anti-Semites. And if you say that explains and you can understand why Stephen S. Weiss would act that way, and then I will say I would understand somebody calling him a Jewish anti-Semite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not as informed on this, so I'm not going to... And again, I don't like to proclaim people anti-Semites. I mean, they may or may not. I come from a background in journalism.
Okay.
And you come from a background in advocacy. I mean, you worked as a rabbi.
Right. So
I have a point of view just as much as you have a point of view, but my style is to stay back more and just
diplomatic.
Maybe, or I prefer to just describe what's going on.
Non-biased.
Try to.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I can't achieve it, and I certainly have things that I do push. But generally speaking, I'm not going to say, okay, I've heard these 6 paragraphs. Stephen S. Weiss is an anti-Semite. That's not my style.
Well, that's my editorializing.
But I don't deny it either. I don't have an agenda either way. I'm not pro Stephen S. Weiss. I'm not anti. I don't care whatever the truth is, and I'm just not up on it. But I do notice how uncomfortable